What's next for Max Holloway and Paulo Costa after UFC 318? ESPN. What happens next for Max Holloway and Paulo Costa after UFC 318? The answer might just rewrite the rules of what it means to be a champion in the octagon. For the first time, the BMF title, yes, that baddest mother F*** belt, has been successfully defended. Max Holloway, the man who brought it to New Orleans, now wears it like a badge of honor, while his opponent, Dustin Poirier, left the octagon for good, gloves abandoned in a bittersweet farewell. But here's where it gets controversial. Is the BMF title a meaningful milestone, or just a flashy marketing stunt? Let's dive into the possibilities for Holloway, Costa, and other stars from UFC 318, and why their next moves could spark debates that last longer than the fights themselves. Max Holloway, lightweight's most valuable? Holloway's BMF victory isn't just a win, it's a statement. At lightweight, he's proven he can hang with the best, but a title shot against Ilia Topuria? That's a bridge too far for now. So what's the plan? Enter Charles Oliveira, a name that's been on Holloway's radar since their 2015 featherweight clash. Back then, Holloway won by TKO after an injury forced Oliveira to tap. Now both are ranked but out of the title picture. A rematch? It's the obvious choice. Oliveira's grappling and power make him a perfect test for Holloway's new weight class. But here's the twist. What if the UFC decides the BMF title is a one-time novelty? Would Holloway's legacy suffer if the belt disappears? Or is this just a clever way to keep fans talking? Sound off in the comments. Do you think the BMF title has staying power, or is it a flash in the pan? Wildcard alert, Dan Hooker. If the UFC isn't sold on Oliveira, Dan Hooker could be the next wild card. Hooker's a showman, and a BMF title fight against him would be a spectacle. Plus, it's a litmus test for Holloway's durability at 155 pounds. But let's be real. Hooker versus Arman Tsarukyan is the fight fans really want. If Tsarukyan gets the next title shot, Hooker's out of the picture. But if not, cue the fireworks. The question is, would you rather see Holloway face a hungry Hooker or a resurgent Tsarukyan? We want to hear your take. Paulo Costa. Midleveigis comeback kid. Paulo Costa's UFC 318 win over Roman Kopylov was more than a victory. It was a reminder of his old self. 5 years after his loss to Israel Adesanya, Costa looked sharp, focused, and ready to reclaim his spot in the middleweight hierarchy. His next target? Brendan Allen, who also impressed with a win over Marvin Vettori. Both fighters bring swagger and skill, making this a stylistic clash fans will love. But here's the part most people miss. What if Khamzat Chimaev loses his title shot at UFC 319? Suddenly, a Costa vs Chimaev rematch becomes a no-brainer. Their history is explosive. Think near brawls and trash talk. The UFC canceled their original matchup in 2023, but if Chimaev falters, this fight could be the next big thing. Should the UFC prioritize drama over strategy? Share your thoughts below. Patricio Pitbull. Featherweight's new hope? Patricio Pitbull's UFC debut was a mixed bag, but his second fight showed promise. As a former Bellator champion, he's got the pedigree, but the UFC's featherweight division is a tangled web. Alexander Volkanovski is the king, but his next fight is still up in the air. Enter Aaron Pico, a Bellator prodigy turned UFC contender. Pitbull vs Pico is a fight that could define both men's careers. But let's not ignore Youssef Zalal, a rising star with a hit list of big names. Pitbull's 1-1 record in the UFC means he's not a title threat yet, but Zalal's hunger could push him to the next level. Is Pitbull the future of the division, or just a flash in the pan? We're curious to know what you think. So what's next for these fighters? The UFC's roadmap is as unpredictable as a spinning back kick, but one thing's for sure. The stakes are higher than ever. Will the BMF title survive? Can Costa reclaim his glory? Is Pitbull the featherweight savior we've been waiting for? Drop your predictions in the comments. After all, in the world of MMA, the only thing more entertaining than the fights themselves is the debate they inspire. Max Holloway calls out Charles Oliveira. BMF title fight next? UFC Rivalry explained. The excuse epidemic. When losing with dignity goes out the window. Imagine being a UFC fighter, pouring your heart and soul into a bout, only to come up short. The real test of character, however, begins after the final bell. Do you own up to the loss, or do you make excuses? For Max Holloway, aka Blessed, his old rival's recent antics have left a sour taste, sparking a heated debate in the MMA community. As Holloway navigates the complex landscape of the lightweight division, his next move is anyone's guess. Fresh from a knockout loss to current champion Ilia Topuria in their featherweight title fight last October, Blessed finds himself at a crossroads. With fans weighing the pros and cons of a potential BMF, baddest mother, fighter, title bout versus an undisputed shot, one name keeps popping up: Charles Oliveira. A blast from the past, Holloway vs. Oliveira 2015. Few may recall the main event of UFC Fight Night 74 in 2015, where Holloway clashed with Oliveira. The outcome was decisive, a first-round victory for Holloway, courtesy of an injury that forced Oliveira to withdraw. But here's where it gets interesting. Oliveira cited an esophagus injury, which allegedly left one side of his body paralyzed for a staggering 4 hours. As Oliveira recounted to co-mate, "It was 4 hours without moving the left side. I was afraid of being crippled. I was sad. I cried like hell." Fast forward to the present. A rematch on the horizon? 10 years, 17 title fights, or 16, if you discount Oliveira's weight miss at UFC 274, and a plethora of what-ifs later. The MMA world is abuzz with the possibility of Holloway vs. Oliveira 2. The defending BMF champion didn't mince words following his win at UFC 318, taking a subtle jab at Oliveira. The question on everyone's mind: is Holloway vs. Oliveira the next fight to make for the BMF belt? We want to hear from you. Do you think Oliveira's past excuses warrant Holloway's skepticism? Or is Blessed just trying to get inside his potential opponent's head? Should the BMF title be on the line for their hypothetical rematch? Or does Oliveira deserve another shot at the undisputed throne? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay ahead of the game with MMA Knockout. For more free, in-depth coverage of the UFC, MMA, and boxing, stick with us at MMA Knockout. https://www.si.com/fannation/MMA. Join the conversation on Facebook, https://www.facebook.com/MMAKNOCKOTSI. Twitter, https://x.com/UFC Knockout, and Instagram, https://www.instagram.com/MMAKNOCKOTSI.